In this lesson, we will learn how to create user data in Cinema 4D. User data is simply a custom channel or a set of custom channels we'd use to get certain types of functionality we'd like to see. So what we'll do is use user data to control things like our screen door. We'll have it open and close. We'll also use user data to control the speed of our antenna. So as that starts to spin based off of time, we can then use a custom channel to control its magnitude or the amount of speed it has. All right, so those are just a few ideas we'll use user data for. Now, when we're creating this, it's a good idea to add this to one central location. That way, it's easy for the animator to access all of these custom channels. Sometimes you may add it to a set of controls. It really depends on your rig, but in our case, we're just going to go ahead and add it to our main animation control for our airship. So that's selected, Anim PV we can now choose user data, add user data. So what's great here is that we can go ahead and start to create a set of groups. Now our top group would be the tab we see. When we start to nest groups underneath, we can start to organize things by creating a set of categories. So let's go ahead and get started with this. What we'll do is go ahead and create a group. We'll choose add group, and we'll go ahead and separate this from out of our user data default group. So now we have a tab here. If we were to go ahead and choose OK, you can see that we have a group tab, which is cool. Let's now go back to user data and choose manage so we can start to edit what we've just created. Now you'll see that when we go ahead and take this default data that's tied to our default group at the top, when we separate that from that group and add it to the new group we've added and choose OK, you can see now we're just left with the group that has data. Here it is. All right, so let's go ahead and start to work on the groups we'd like to see as well as the data. So the first one will be for our screen door. We'll go ahead and first take this group. Let's go ahead and create another one. Again, so we can start to create categories because this is our tab. So now that we have this group here, we're going to go ahead and separate our data and add that to this next group. And the first group we have will be called extra control. So again, this is the tab we'd see. The next group, this is going to be for our screen door. So we could always call this screen control. And the data, we'll rename this to open, close. Beautiful. Now notice we have min and max values we can work with. So let's say that -100 is our minimum, so that when we reach this value, the screen door will be open. And then for our max, we'll go ahead and set that to 0, so that when we reach this value, the screen door is closed. If we were to go ahead and choose OK just to kind of test this out, notice we can't go any higher than 0, but we can go to -100. Now just to test this out, if we were to grab our screen and move to scroll to first active under the view menu, we can now go ahead and grab its main pivot group, which is named screen rotate. So let's go ahead and go to coordinates now just to take a look at this. When we start to rotate up, you can see that we're moving in a negative direction. That's exactly why we'd want to use -100 here. So if you are creating user data, you may want to start moving your objects so you have an idea of your min and max values. But we can create nodes in Expresso to kind of reverse this. So if we wanted to, we could have this screen, even though it's going in the negative direction, we can have it go in the positive direction and kind of reverse that using a certain type of node, which we will take a look at shortly. All right, but what's great is that we have our first user data added. So let's go ahead and create more. Again, we'd need to go back to manage user data. I'd also like to point out, if we choose add user data, that's simply going to add a default channel here. So we can access the same user data from both options. Just wanted to point that out, but I'm going to go ahead and cancel this out and go back to manage so we don't have that extra data added. All right, so we have the first group. Let's go ahead and work on one for our fan controls next. So what we could always do is simply go in and create another group here. And we need to make sure it's added underneath extra controls. So we'll go ahead and drag it there. And now we can go ahead and rename this group to fan_controls. With it selected, we can now go ahead and add data to it and expand this. So the first set of controls we'll have will be for our fan groups so that they can swivel. So let's go ahead and name this first data set to L_swivel. And this time we will not give it min and max values. That way we have full control over its swivel. Let's go ahead and create another one for the right fan. We can just hold down control and drag our current data to create a clone, a copy. So now we can go ahead and rename this to R_swivel. All right, beautiful. So now selecting our group, once again, we're going to go ahead and create a channel to control the speed of our fan spin. So with our group selected, again, we'll create data. And let's go ahead and name this spin. All right, beautiful. So we will leave our min and max value so that when we're set to 0, there will be no spin at all. And at 100%, of course, we'll have a full spin. All right, beautiful. So at this point, we just have one more group to create. We will create a set later on for our landing gear, but for right now, let's just go ahead and work with what we need at this time. So I'm going to go ahead and create another group. Again, we'll select extra controls, create the group. Here it is. Let's go ahead and rename this to antenna control. All right, beautiful. So now with this selected, we'll go ahead and create data. And let's go in and rename this to speed. And again, we'll use the same default values here for our min and max channels. All right, so at this point, we're ready to choose OK. And there we have it. We have a set of data here, which is really exciting. All right, so that's going to end this lesson. We've learned how to not only create user data, but how to edit user data. If you'd ever like to remove it, you'd simply go back to Manage User Data, simply select what you'd like to remove, and when you right-click, you can go ahead and choose Remove from here. So I did want to point that out to you as well. So now that we have our custom channels, let's go ahead and start to drive certain objects on our airship based off of our user data.